Hey man, how are you?
Good, how are you?
Good, good. So, yeah, thanks for joining, man. I guess while everybody, let's give a few minutes here for people to join in. But yeah, thanks for joining, man. I've been following for a while now, and I guess just to kind of remind everyone, the point of this conversation is to bring a lot of awareness, right, from a mainly educational perspective. But just to give you a little bit background for this channel, Abundancia Mindset. A lot of it is touching around personal finance, right? So people think, the whole kind of mission of this channel is to introduce people to personal finance concepts, right? Retirement, etc. And I know a lot of time, if you come from an old school kind of mentality of the Ramsey, a lot of it is cut back on things, right? Pay off,
hmm
don't even open a credit card, right? And a lot of that, it doesn't dissimulate well to, especially the Hispanic community, right? So part of that is bringing guests like you to kind of teach us right what you're doing, and obviously there's incentives to take advantage of credit card companies, right? Well, I should rephrase that.
No, it is, it is. But
Yeah,
they take advantage of us too, right? So we
exactly.
got to
So
play their game.
someone ends up paying for all of this, right? So it's technically not free. Unfortunately, part of this hopefully will touch on credit, etc. But just wanted to give you everyone that's kind of new to this, I guess, live a little bit background, right? So, yeah, that's with that. Here we go. Well, I guess to start off just with the whole personal finance, tell me a little bit about what was your relationship with money growing up?
It's hard to have a relationship when you don't have it, right? So I didn't have, or we didn't have, yeah, a lot of money growing up. Actually, I was thinking about it, and like I still remember, like how much my dad made. This is like the early '90s, right? When I would always like go with him everywhere and stuff. So Saturdays I'd go with him. He'd pick up his check, and he got net, after taxes or whatever. It was 296.14 is what he made per week, and that's what we lived off of. So that's where I'm coming from. My mom didn't work back then, so I guess I didn't really have a relationship with money other than, I mean, we did with what we had.
You did what you had to do. Yeah, I remember my growing up, my mom didn't work until we moved to the States, and it was totally different. So at that point, she had to work and, very long hours and et cetera. So very similar backgrounds. But yeah, the reason I like to ask that is because everybody has, a lot of times you see people with so many followers or making a lot of money, right? But sometimes we think those are overnight, right? And
Mhm.
we don't really know each other's struggle or, sort of origin story. But anyways, so tell me now, let's switch it up a little bit now to talk about credit card points and rewards and all that good stuff. Tell me a little bit of the story, your background. I know you traveled to over 33 countries now, and that's really impressive. But yeah.
Well, background. I mean, I guess I'll keep going a little bit with my parents, but both of them, they're from Mexico, Zacatecas and Durango. So they
I'm from
came here.
Zacatecas.
So so they came over, in the '70s, '80s, or whatever, and my siblings and I were all born here, but um, I'm a first generation American, first generation, college grad, a bunch of other stuff. But as far as um, my background on that, like I said, I first generation college graduate, so I got a bachelor's in business administration and a master's in accounting. And then, so I work for the government now in the accounting field or auditing field. Um, and what else? I mean, I joined the Marine Reserves, so first generation to do that too. I checked a lot of those first generation things off the box.
The box, yeah. Being a good first American, quote unquote. Yeah. That's awesome. So yeah, so tell me a little bit. How did you even? Yeah. So yeah, thank you for your service, man. I know we're getting a little bit of shout outs here too. So how did you end up, becoming this, rock star in the credit card rewards world?
Well, I mean, it really just comes down to me loving to travel and wanting to travel, for more than I can afford to. So finding other ways to do it, right? It's like I want to travel, but I don't have money, and finding other ways. That kind of, a one liner. But really got into it because for my job, I moved to Germany, and for 3 years I worked over there. I worked for the government, and so I moved there for 3 years, and it's really easy to travel, very cheap to travel within Europe once you're already over there. So I just started traveling a lot, and I just liked to do it, and I didn't want to stop. I still don't.
Yeah.
And then so I got a credit card, so I could use that wouldn't charge me foreign transaction fees if I go to another country, and I can use the card in whatever currency they use and stuff. But what really got me into it was I was on a work trip with my manager, and he had the Chase Sapphire Reserve, which gives you lounge access at some airports and stuff. And he's like, hey, come here. I was like, okay. He took me in as his guest, and I was like, what is this? Like, this is nice. I want to do this too.
I just want to do this. Yeah.
So then I started, researching which cards would give me lounge access, and that's how I started learning more about the benefits that come with credit cards, and trying to decide which one again, because they're not cheap. These cards that give you lounge access. So I ended up getting the American Express Platinum card for the lounge access, and then just kept reading and learning more about it, and just kept going down that rabbit hole. And still to this day, like daily I check certain blogs or whatever, or now a bunch of people on Instagram which will share a bunch of stuff. There's always something new to learn, because there's new promotions all the time that the banks or airlines or hotels will have. So that's how I got started, because I wanted to go into lounges too.
Yeah, and then I always tell people, there's ways to traveling for cheap, right? I know there's a lot of, everything you see on social media, right? I can only imagine a lot of people, two things, right? Either you're really in depth, right? Or you're taking advantage like yourself. I know there's geo-based travel. There's a community. Once you start getting into the credit card points, airlines, it's a whole different world, right?
Yeah.
And there's so many strategies, and people have binders full of credit cards, and they will tell you and break it down for you. So it's really mind-blowing, at least for me, right?
I have mine here.
Oh, wow. There you go. It's like when when you have the Pokemon cards and you show your holographics. But
these are not on mine. Some of these are like old that I've canceled or downgraded or whatever, or for my wife and kids that they don't use. I just have them under their name as authorized users to help build their credit.
And that's a fair point. That's a fair point, and that's something I want to touch on a little bit later, right? Because some people have a lot of questions. Last time you sent me a message regarding credit in general, right?
Mm-hmm.
And there's a lot of things that I'm not 100% sure, and here I am trying to give advice, right? But anyways, so yeah, like I said, man, this is a whole new world of credit card points, right? And once you get into it, it's very addicting, right?
Yeah.
Personally, I started following you, started following a lot of people, but my plan was, at least this year, travel in first class, right? I did a little bit of traveling to the Middle East, and there's a lot of hours, and I don't want to fly regular on a flight first class now. But anyways, yeah, so let's get back out. I guess when you kind of mentioned how you got started, right? Like what were some of the challenges, or what are some of the things that you came across that maybe, would help new folks here?
Well, I guess, instead of just signing up for any card, it's like, this is this card has a bunch of points, to get it or whatever. It's like, you should really start backwards. You should really, and that's what I tell people. People DM me and ask me, hey, which card should I get? And I was like, well, it depends on your travel goals. Like, because if you want to go to Japan, then, I'd recommend this card because this is the best airline to travel there in points, and these are the points that transfer to that airline. Or, I just want to go to Mexico or whatever it is. Then there's different ways. Maybe there's not a lot of miles that you can use to go to Mexico, but you can use a credit card's travel portal to just book any flight available, right? So that's really what I would say. It's like, don't just get any card just to get it because, it looks nice. I mean, what are your travel goals? What are you trying to accomplish at the end of the day? And then work yourself back to which is the best card to get me there. Because when I started, it was just like, oh, I'll get this one, this one, this one. So I got a lot of points, and, I have, I have more points right now than I can really use because, like I have a family, so it's not easy to either take all of us or to get away for a few days or whatever it is. So that's what I would say is, have like an ultimate goal. Like I want to do this, one person, two people, me and the kids, four people, or I want to go to this hotel, whatever it is, and then work your way back.
Yeah, and I think, like you mentioned, a lot of us, me included, make the mistake of initially signing up for the first credit card I got was Capital One Venture card, and because I wanted to travel, right? But I think part of it is that you have to spend so much money initially, right, to get those points. And if you don't plan well, right, you're gonna end up spending just for the sake of spending, so that way you can hit that goal and get those points, right? So that's probably not the smartest way to go about it. But like you mentioned, have a plan, work backwards, and then from there, even if maybe you're buying a house, maybe you want to buy new furniture, right? So make it make sense for you, right? So that way, and obviously, pay it off.
Yeah, and that's something I tell people all the time is, you only use it for your regular expenses, whatever you can pay off monthly. Like if you don't want to get in debt, because if you start paying interest and all these points and miles you paid for them. They weren't free. You're not really getting that value. And yeah, I mean, it's not easy for everybody to meet the minimum spend requirements. Not everybody, can spend, I guess the average is maybe 3,000 to 4,000, in a 3-month period. Not everybody can spend that because, for the most part, you can't pay your mortgage or your rent or your car note or things like that. So, but if there's pre-planned expenses, you've got some home improvement coming up, or not even a family member, you could be like, hey, can I use my card and you give me the cash? I've done that. My dad was buying a TV and I was like, can I pay for it? And just give me the cash. He's like, yeah, sure. Cause I think old school, at least my dad, he likes to carry cash and pay cash and everything.
Exactly.
So I take advantage when he has big expenses, and he knows now, he's like, hey, I need to buy some material. Like, you can pay with your card. I'm like, great, let's go.
I mean, that's actually a really great point, especially at least for my parents too. They're not very trusty too of credit cards, right? Mm-hmm. But kind of understand the point is a reward system. Like it makes a lot of sense to do it. So there you go. Take note, everyone. Ask your aunties and everyone else. If they want to.
And something with Mexicans or whatever, it's like we have quinceañeras or in the family or friends or whatever, and there's a lot of money spent in these big parties we have. So you can put all that spent on a card, pay it off, and you got all these points now. So any pre-planned big expenses, you should take advantage and get a new card, put that spend on there, and get your points.
That's right. Yeah. So what's something that I know you mentioned you kind of work backwards, right? But what's something that you would do differently if you were starting from, today?
Start earlier.
Start earlier. Okay.
Yeah, because, there's been promotions and stuff, or, the way things used to work where it was easier to do these, get all these points and stuff. But then the banks, they catch on to it, then they put a stop to it. So, but there's always new ways, I guess, new things to do. But I guess when one of the first things people would do when this started, like credit card points and stuff, there wasn't a lot of rules because it's so new, and people would go use their card to buy, say, like gold or something that you can, sell and get for cash, and then just pay it off, and you got all these points. So it's a little bit harder to do now, but it definitely still exists. It's called manufactured spending, where you're using your card, but you're pretty much getting reimbursed somehow for that money, and and just paying off your card. I don't do that yet. I'll probably get into it, but as I go deeper into this, but I don't do that now. I don't have a need. I mean, I get enough points with my current strategy, which is, I get a card, use it for 2 or 3 months until I meet the spend, and then I get a new card. After that, and then I'll alternate between my wife and I. So I'll get one, maybe 3-4 months, whatever it takes, and then I'll get one under her name, and then we'll use that one for everything, and then we'll switch. So.
And I guess I wanted to ask you a bit of a misconception, because I think everybody feels that as you open more credit lines, right, which is recommended to have multiple credit lines regardless. Mm-hmm. But I think a lot of people think that you're gonna take a hit on your credit. Can you tell us a little bit if that's a myth or if there's some truth to that?
No, there is some truth to that, but it's not as big as an impact as you might think. You might take a 10, 15 point hit when you get a new card, but in like 2 or 3 months, generally it should go back up to where you were. And so, and the other thing that's been great about getting into this is I've learned more about how credit cards work and your credit score and all that. So now, I have better credit score than I used to have before this, because before this, I used to carry a balance on the card, years, because I've only been doing this for the past couple of years. So prior to that, I would use cards maybe how most people use them, and you shouldn't. It's like, hey, let's go to Disneyland. We'll just put it on the card, and then
You put everything in there.
and then you're paying $200-$300 a month, for until you're done paying that off, or until you get tired. You're like, oh, somehow you end up paying it off, but that's not how you should be using them. So now that I've gotten into this, it's like, now I don't pay any interest because I pay off my statement monthly. I only use it for my regular spend.
And that's something to bring up, right? Like you have to be disciplined enough to pay it off. Otherwise, the APR in those, the percentage, the interest is very high, right? Typically, I don't know, anywhere from 16 to 20, 25, right? So always remember that the credit card companies are never losing, right? You might get free trips, etc., right? But it might be at my expense, right? Because I'm not as responsible that I should be paying. I'm probably paying minimum, right? So I'm actually funding Miguel's trips, right? So don't be like me.
Yeah.
But so I think they're not losing is basically what I'm trying to say, right? But you have to be very disciplined about it. I guess one thing I wanted to ask you is, there's so many credit cards, right? I'm personally looking into something I think I asked you last time about the Venture X, right?
Mm-hmm.
But there's also Chase Sapphire. There's American Express, right? How would I know what to sign up with, right? And how do you even find out about these things?
I mean, there's a lot of information on YouTube. I saw a lot of YouTube. There's a lot of channels that just dedicate just to analyzing the card and its benefits, or there's blogs, and on Instagram there's a bunch of people who will, I guess, help you. They do free credit card consultations where they'll ask you basic questions like, what do you spend the most money on? Like travel, groceries, dining, or where you want to go. But yeah, I mean, people ask me all the time, and for the most part, one that I like to recommend, because I think it's a good starter card, which is actually one of the first ones I got. And I guess I got this one before the American Express, but I wasn't into it yet. I just got it, for the no foreign transaction fees. But that was my first card, the Chase Sapphire Preferred. So I think that's one of the good ones to start, because it has a low annual fee of $95, when you compare it to these other $300, $400, $500, $600, $700 ones. And because Chase points, there's 4 currencies that are flexible or transferable. So that's American Express membership reward points, Chase Ultimate Reward points, there's Citi Thank You points, and there's Capital One Venture Miles. So those 4, they all have different airline partners and hotel partners. So they're flexible, meaning, if you have use for them with Hilton, let me transfer what I need to Hilton and book my hotel with that. Or if you want to fly with United, you can transfer Chase points to United and get your flight that way. So it's very flexible. Or they'll have their own travel portal. So you can just go on the Chase travel portal and look up any hotel. It doesn't have to be a chain hotel. It could be a smaller boutique hotel that's on their travel portal, which is kind of like Expedia search engine. So that's why I recommend that one, because it's very flexible and low annual fee.
So this would be a good one to start off, just because of the low annual fee, right? So if I'm I think most of it, like, I'm coming from my own point of view, right? But I think a lot of us can share the same thoughts. If I don't have the time, how would I know who works with, what network, right? Especially you mentioned the airlines, which hotel chains work with, let's say, Chase Sapphire, right? Because I know they also do like Uber Eats and also certain lounges, right? Is it just kind of figuring out and going through various YouTubes or Instagram profiles, or is this information published within their websites as well?
It's not as easy to find or whatever. So for me, you just Google everything, it depends on where you want to go or what kind of points or miles you have. Something I like to Google is sweet spots. So let's say I want to go to Europe. I would just say Europe points and miles sweet spots and see, what miles make the most sense to go there. Or if I have, American Express points, Amex sweet spots, just that's worked well.
Interesting. Yeah. So again, take notes. All right. Because all this information, I noticed this a while back. I was looking into NerdWallet or all these other websites, right? But one thing I noticed with those is that well, this is my personal experience, right? So if anybody's here from NerdWallet, apologies, but I know a lot of the websites or blogs, right? They built a reputation, and obviously at the end of the day, they want to monetize, right? So they might make you lean towards a specific credit card, but that's because they're going to make money on those referrals, right?
Yeah.
So I would say, I guess, what do you think about those kind of blogs, right? Is there anything to watch out for, or?
Yeah, because certain cards don't pay out commissions, and that's the part about certain blogs that won't push certain cards. So actually, if you really just want to see what the best offer is, I would go to Doctor of Credit. So if you go to just Google Doctor of Credit best sign up bonuses, and that's going to tell you by month, and they keep updating it, and it'll tell you on there, this is the best offer for this card, and it'll tell you, this offer might be only available through a personal referral or through whatever it is. But there you can't go wrong. If you want to compare, Doctor of Credit is where they always show the highest sign up bonuses for all the cards. Now, I would add here that if you go on there and compare that the highest offer is the same as someone's personal referral or someone's affiliate link, I would apply through the affiliate link or personal referral so that someone can get compensated for that. Because if not, then the bank keeps that money, right? But that's where, I tell people, go check here, and that always tells you the highest offer for any card.
Yeah, and again, there's plenty of people like yourself doing this, right, through Instagram or YouTube. So make sure you support them, right, because this stuff takes time. at least for me, this is part of the reason I'm doing this, because I want to learn, right? Like I said, I want to fly, first class, and I know it's doable, and I just don't want to pay the price for it, right? Yeah. So yeah, thanks again for putting in the work. I was going to ask, I know there's a lot of also, Southwest has their own, a lot of airlines also have their own credit cards, right? What do you think about those?
I mean, it could make sense depending on if you fly a specific airline a lot, right? Because most of those co-branded cards is what they're called, is they'll have a benefit like no baggage fees. Well, obviously Southwest doesn't charge baggage fees anyway, but if you're flying American, everybody charges at least $30 now to check a bag. Sure. But if you fly, American or United or Delta, at least twice a year, then it might make sense because, even if the annual fee is $100, then you're saving $30, $60 on a round trip, $120 per year on 2 trips. So the credit card's cheaper at $100, and you're going to get the free bags.
That's right.
And with Delta, American, and you don't even have to use the card to get that benefit. It'll be tied to your, frequent flyer number. But with United, I guess I'm leaving out Alaska and JetBlue and these other ones, right? But United, I think, is one of the only ones that you have to use the United card when you make the reservation to get those benefits. But the other ones, as long as you have the card, you'll get free baggage. So if you fly a specific airline at least twice a year and check bags, then yeah, it could make sense. Even if you don't use the card for your everyday purchases, generally those cards don't earn you a lot of points for everyday spend. But yeah, it could still make sense only because you'll get that, and you'll get like priority boarding or something like that along with it too.
So if it makes sense, if, for example, I know United charge you for cards, right, for baggage, right? So basically just kind of reiterating what you're stating is, if it makes sense on the annual fees, right, if you travel at least once or twice, a lot of that stuff is going to be covered if you do, right? Now, I guess 2 questions I kind of just thought about. One is, I find it a little bit confusing on the points, right? Because every card has their own point system, right? Mm-hmm. And I know, for example, if you're flying the, I forget which Star Alliance, right? It's not only US based, but European based also airlines, right? So how does it work when you're transferring points? And I guess my second question to that is, does it make sense to also go through, like you mentioned, through Capital One or Chase when you're booking flights, right? So I guess the first question is on the points.
So on the, Can you repeat the points part, I guess?
Sure.
The
Yeah.
first part
So
of that?
I found it a little bit confusing because let's say you mentioned, right? For example, you might get a credit card and it might not be great for like your everyday shopping, like at the
Mhm.
groceries, et cetera, right? I can think of, I use, what is it? Discover. And Discover is great at doing cashback, right? Specifically for shopping, et cetera, right? But maybe Discover is not the card that I want to use for, flights, et cetera, right? So
Right.
just touch a little bit of how do you go about the actual points? I know, 1 point might mean $1.5 or et cetera. How does that work?
Yeah, so they all have different values pretty much. And there's blogs out there that will, do their little fancy analysis and calculate how much it's worth to them. At the end of the day, before I start getting more into it, is if you're happy with what you redeem, then you're good. Don't worry about, what other people say is, no, you could have got 2 points or 2 cents per point or whatever it is. Like if you're happy with what you redeem, then that's good. You're still getting a free or discounted flight or whatever. But yeah, so generally, because like American Express and Chase, they're the ones I use mostly, because they're so flexible, is they're more valuable because you have so many different uses that you can transfer to different airlines or hotels. And as far as like the Star Alliance or whatever, so we're talking about airline alliances, and there's 3 main ones. There's Star Alliance, which is United's a part of, American is part of One World, and Delta's part of SkyTeam. So there's airlines all over the world that are kind of partners in this, right? So if you book through Delta a flight to South America, you might take a Delta flight from here to layover Mexico City, and then the rest of the way might be on Aeromexico because they're both part of SkyTeam or whatever. So you could still use miles on a foreign airline. So for example, if you have United miles, you have to, let's say you got the United card, you could book on the United website using their miles, but the flight might be on Lufthansa, Swiss, TAP Air, whatever else is in Star Alliance.
Okay. Yeah, no, but that's that's good to know because sometimes when I was traveling, right, I ended up, like you said, it was a totally different airline from what I had expected, right?
Yeah.
And then when I started, kind of looking at channels like yours or other YouTube channels, realized that they can transfer, right? Especially when they're, we're already in Europe or whatever other countries you're in, and your flight gets canceled or something else, right? You trying to get last minute, and it's so expensive, right?
Yeah.
So I think I saw you do something similar when you flew your parents out to France, and you ended up redeeming or exchanging some points. And it just sounds very complicated, but when I see the end bill, right, I think a lot of times you end up just paying for taxes, and it's so cheap, and it blows my mind.
Yeah, so with that one, so I wanted to fly specifically this product, which is Lufthansa First Class, and their miles, I think they're called Miles and More. Their point system, unless you have their co-branded card or fly them, they're harder to get. But you can still book the Lufthansa flights with United miles, with Avianca Life Miles, which is like a Colombian airline, I think, or Air Canada's program. So there's all these other different programs that will let you book because they're all part of the same, Star Alliance. So in that case, I could have transferred, say, less miles if I used the Avianca program. It would have only been 87,000 miles, I think, for the first class. But they're not as customer service. Their customer service is not as good. So I did, because this was going to be a flight that was pending, right? Like the award seat availability wasn't there. Lufthansa releases these seats right before they actually take place, because they're going to try to sell them, obviously, because they're selling for $10,000. And the last few days, if they didn't sell them, then they'll release them. Okay, you can book it with points. And because I didn't know I was gonna fly them until literally the day before. Wow. So that's why I booked it with Air Canada's program, even though it cost me more miles. It was 100,000 miles or points. Because they had flexible booking policies. So what I did was I had like a backup flight in Lufthansa business class. And then I was checking that whole week. We were in Barcelona, and I would be up like checking, the website, refreshing it. And once the three seats opened up, I called Air Canada and just switched my flight from business to first. And the miles were already in my account there because that was the plan all along. So yeah, it can get a little, complicated. It doesn't have to be,
Right.
but for redemptions like that, then yeah, those are what points and miles people like aspire. There's like bucket lists of like certain flights that you want to take, and they're hard to get or whatever the case may be. And that was one of those, and it was pretty incredible that I was able to get it for three people.
Pull
It's
it
not
off. Yeah.
really heard of. I mean, it's easier when it's just one person, but for three seats to have opened up and for me to have grabbed them, like that was pretty cool.
No, that's really
So
amazing. I'm sure they love the experience. Like I saw them, you had a TikTok, and it was really funny. And also that was really nice because I'm sure they really appreciated that. So I was going to ask you. So for this particular one, it was last minute, and you mentioned certain airlines released their first class a few days before, right? Is there a way to plan for those? Like if I'm planning a trip 6 months from now and I want to fly first class, but using points, is there a way to also do that?
yeah, so you could just look up, let's say you want a specific product or using specific airline point system. You want to find out when they release those. They all have a schedule. So most of the time it's like 330 days or 360 days before. So you're really trying to plan like a year in advance.
Mm-hmm.
So for these type of redemptions, you're either going to do it 11 months in advance or 3 days from now, like that's how you're going to find the availability.
Wow. So you better
But
be
there,
flexible, basically.
yeah, and there's websites. I would subscribe to Expert Flyer. I think that's $10 a month, which I should take it off now because I'm not expecting another redemption like that. Which where you can set alerts. So that's what I did. I said, hey, if three seats open up from Frankfurt to, and I did like 10 different routes. I'm like, I'll go wherever. I just want to fly it. So I was like Chicago, Miami, LA, Mexico City. If any of these routes have three seats, like send me an email so I can call it and book it. So that's another resource you can use.
All right. So this was again, this was Expert Flyers, correct?
Yeah.
Okay. All righty. So I guess moving up a little bit, I kind of already asked you this, but again, if you're trying to, you mentioned 100,000 points, right? What does that really mean? Like, or does it depend on the airline or the credit card company?
Yeah. So most of the transfer partners with like American Express and Chase, they transfer at a 1-to-1 ratio. So if you have 100,000 American Express or Chase points, they would transfer to 100,000. And you don't have to transfer them all. You transfer them in 1,000 increments of 1,000. But you only want to transfer when you have a use for them. You don't want to just say, hey, let me just put them all in British Airways. And now, this awesome deal comes up using Air France's program. And you're like, oh, I can't move them back.
Yeah.
So once you move them, they're stuck in there.
That's a good point. So is it, do all of them have that policy where once you move them, you can't reuse them? Gotcha. And how?
I mean, you can't move them back. You can still use them with them, right, wherever you transfer them into, but you can't pull them back.
Gotcha. And let's say let's say I'm flying. I don't know who participates with a specific airline, but sorry, like Emirates, right?
Mm-hmm.
I know they partner with other airlines, but can I do it right away? Like, let's say, kind of to your situation, right? Let's say I have a flight coming up in the next 2 days. Is there a way to transfer, or is there a certain time that you have to kind of wait?
No, they all have different. I'd have to Google it. I don't know all of them off the top of my head, but some of them are instant, and some of them, could take 3 days. So, I mean, once you're trying to redeem a specific award, I would just research it. It's like, how long does it take to transfer the points? Can they put an award seat on hold until I transfer the points, or how it works? Like recently, I just redeemed some points for a first class flight on ANA, so this Japanese airline, which I should be flying this month, like in a few weeks. But then, I transferred American Express points to Virgin Atlantic, and then I called Virgin Atlantic, and they booked my flight with ANA. So it can get a little complicated. But like I said, these are these type of flights that that are really hard to get on points. So,
Gotcha. Okay. All right. So let's move a little bit. Well, yeah, and I'll touch back on this, right? We'll kind of summarize it here in the next few minutes. But I wanted to kind of go back to the whole concept of credit, right? Because you mentioned you have some accounts that you have your kids as authorized users, right? Like
Mhm.
that's something that's really important, right? So if you don't mind, let's touch on those two things. So one is what truly impacts your credit score, and two is why is it important to have authorized users, especially your kids before they turn 18 and start going to college and start to be adults.
Yeah. So you know, the you should really know where you stand with your credit, first of all. And there's a lot of free resources for you to figure out where you're at, like Credit Karma, Experian. I know some of the banks do it too, so I can check my credit score with like Wells Fargo because I have an account with them. American Express will let me check my score with them. But they all have different like formulas or algorithms to calculate your score. So Credit Karma, for example, like they use their own, I think they call it Vantage score or something. So that's really kind of like an estimate. Like if you just go off of that and then go try to get a car or a house and your score is lower, don't be surprised because they're just using a different formula to come up with that score. But one of the main three things that affect your credit score are your utilization percentage. So how much of your available credit are you using? So if you have, however many cards you have, but let's say you have $10,000 in credit, you want to be really under 30%, so $3,000. If you're over that, that's going to start lowering your score. And the way they calculate that is whatever balance you had when your statement closed. So it doesn't say you can't max out your card, but just bring it down to under 30% when the statement closes, because that's what's going to go on your score that month, or when your credit's checked after that date. And the other thing is collections, so you don't want any collections, and missed payments. So missed payments are hard to recover from because it was a missed payment, so it's going to stay on there for I don't know how many years it stays on there, 5-7 years. And it'll get better eventually because you'll have other accounts and it'll be a lower percentage, 1 month out of 300 months or whatever it is. But those are the three main things. And something you can really control is your credit utilization percentage, to not max out your cards.
Exactly. Don't go above those 30%, right? So if your card is maximum $10,000, don't spend more than $3,000, right?
And getting into the authorized users. So something that I learned through this journey or whatever is that being an authorized user on somebody else's credit account, it still counts towards you, even though you're not responsible for paying it, and it affects you both negatively and positively.
Interesting.
So like I have, and I started with a secured credit card because nobody taught me about credit. So like, as soon as I turned 18, I went and got like a store card and $900 at the what is it, the Buckle, I think. Yeah, let me go get $900 worth of clothes, and yeah, $20 a month. Yeah, I could do that. And eventually, I couldn't, and I ended up defaulting on that card. So I had really bad credit, and once I started fixing it, I got like a secured credit card. So that's where I'd start if my credit wasn't as good, and that's when you put in a deposit. They give you a card. So mine was $500. I sent them $500, so they gave me a card for $500 limit, and I just started using that, for gas or whatever, but paying it off every month. Mm-hmm. And that started improving my score. So I still have that card, and they charge me $25 a year, which I don't want to pay because I don't get any benefit from it. But it's my oldest card, so I don't want to close it because that brings up my average age of accounts, up because. Right now, my average age of accounts is kind of low, like because I have a bunch of new cards now. Exactly. But I'm still at a 780, 790 right now credit score, so those don't affect you as much. So when I learned that the authorized users benefit from this is because I added my wife to that card. So that card's like 10 years old or something, and I added her as an authorized user, and the next month, she went up like 30 points or something. And I'm like, you're welcome.
that was obvious.
So then I've had my kids on there, on a few of my cards, and I guess we'll find out when they turn 18 and stuff, but that goes on your credit history. So they'll have, by the time they turn 18, they'll all have, 3-4 accounts already. And the age, that'll be like 10 years worth of credit history. So
exactly, that's something to think about, right? Because especially you're 18, you're trying to go to an apartment, right? It does limit you, right? Specifically, where do you want to live, right? If you want to live in a nicer area, they have a lot of other requirements, right? And one of them is credit scores, right?
yeah.
You touched a little bit of Credit Karma and other ones, right? From what I understand is like Credit Karma might not be 100% accurate because those are all soft like checks, right? Soft pulls, versus something like annualcreditreport.com, which is part of the, I don't know if it's government ran, but I know that one's a legitimate one that you have access at least to run 1 year, right?
Yeah.
That's going to give you a good idea of, I think it's through Experian, Equifax, and I think those are the main two. But anyways, from my understanding, this one allows you to, kind of get a full-blown report and see, your past lenders, et cetera, right? So I would really recommend it. I know I have a post on that, so go back and take a look at it. But that's a fair point. Now, the other thing you mentioned about, we touched on, it doesn't really affect you if you continue opening cards, right?
Mm-hmm.
And two is how does it, like, you have, you're seem pretty organized with all of your credit cards, right? But if it gets too overwhelming and I want to start closing down accounts, right? Is that a bad idea?
Yeah. So first of all, I would, and you know what I started doing, because a lot of people ask me the same stuff. So I started doing like on my notes, just doing like scripts for certain questions, because it's a lot of information that I give people, and I can't be typing that over and over. So sometimes I still go through it, and if they ask a specific, question or whatever, I'll tweak it and I'll personalize it to answer that. But I have something here on that. And so it depends, right? So I have 4 potential paths to take once your annual fee comes up. So most cards that give you a bonus are all worth it within the first year because of that bonus that you're getting, right? Because that bonus has, a monetary value assigned to it, depending on how you redeem those points. That will probably be more than whatever you paid for the annual fee. But after your first year, there's 4 paths that you can take. The annual fee is due, or comes up. You have 30 days, first of all, after the annual fee, to still call and cancel it and get your annual fee back. So you don't have to be like, oh, I'm going to miss it, I want to cancel it before. You never want to cancel it before, because the banks don't like that, and they might kind of like ban you from getting cards with them in the future. So you don't want to do that within the first year. But after your annual fee hits, I mean, you could even call before, but not actually cancel it, but call. So number 1, there's keeper cards that I call. So these are cards that provide more value than the annual fee. Most of these fall in the category of hotel cards. So there's Marriott, Marriott and Hyatt. I know they give you, and IHG, so the Holiday Inns, and that they give you a free night certificate every year, right? So my Hyatt card is $95 a year, but you can get a free hotel night every year. So most hotel nights that I can redeem it for are worth more than $95. So I'm saving money as long as you can use it. So those are the keeper ones, right? And then there's the downgrade path. So a lot of these cards, they have a downgrade path, which means there's a version that doesn't have an annual fee. The United card would be one of them. So there's 4 United cards. There's forgot what it's called, but there's one that's like $400 a year. Then there's the Quest that's $250 a year. And there's a Mileage Plus that's like $100 a year. And then there's one called the Gateway now. This is new. This one has a 0 annual fee. So like I have the Quest card right now. When my annual fee comes up this year, I'm going to call to see, first of all, if I can get a retention offer, which is path number 3. And I'll go more into it right now. But if I can't get a retention offer, then I would downgrade that to the no annual fee card. And then I can just throw it in my sock drawer. I don't have to use it. The account stays open and no harm. I mean, if I'm not getting charged an annual fee, I can just keep it open. Maybe use it for gas once a year if you want to, so they won't close it on you or whatever. So the third one would be the retention offer, which this should probably be, I mean, they're not in any order, but this should probably be one of the first steps, or potential steps you should take. is to call for a retention offer. So you would just call or chat with Amex. You can chat and tell them that you're considering, and that's the key word. You don't want them to call you on your bluff and say, I'm calling to cancel. And you get somebody that's like, all right, it's canceled.
Yeah.
So
Sounds like
you call,
Comcast or Xfinity. Yeah.
so you call and tell them, hey, I'm considering closing my card. I don't think I'm getting value. And a lot of these travel cards, because of the current situation where travel is not back to where it was pre-2020. It's I guess believable, right? It's like, yeah, I'm not using this travel card because I'm not traveling this much anymore.
Exactly.
But you say, I'm not really using the benefits, whatever the benefits may be. And, I want to know if there's a retention offer. You can straight up just ask them that. And they're going to tell you how great the card is. They're going to say, but look, we have all this and this. Like, yeah, it's still not enough. I'm still not. And, they could come back with a retention offer, which could be either they waive the fee or maybe give you a reduced fee. So I've gotten, I think there was a Marriott card that was like $95 a year, and they offered me like 60, 60 off. So that, that was one path. For my Amex Platinum last year, they offered me 30,000 points, but sometimes there'll be a spending requirement attached to that. So it'll be like, we'll give you 30,000 points or $300 off your annual fee this year, but you have to spend $4,000 in the next 3 months. So you would just evaluate if it still makes sense to keep it. And then the fourth thing is you cancel it. If none of the other ones, if it's not a keeper card, if there's no downgrade path to a no annual fee card, and if there's no retention offer, then you can cancel it.
Gotcha. So there's 4 different strategies that you can go, right? And, if you want to replay this video or later on, I'll make a summary, right, with these points. But I mean, those are really good points because, I think most of us sign up for that initial rewards, right? And then for the rest of the year, didn't plan for it, right? So for me, I have 1 or 2 credit cards that I just pay my internet, right? And I have them set to auto pay every month.
Yeah.
So you can automate that process and not worry about it, right? But I'm not leveraging it any longer, right? And I'm sure I'm missing out on some of those benefits. So just in the interest of time, 2 more things. One is you mentioned hotels, right? I know we touched a lot mainly on flights, right? But you mentioned some of, like Hyatt having free night certificates, right? Which that itself might be worth the whole fee, right? Depending on the card, right? Can you tell us which cards are better for, or I don't want to say which card specifically, but what's the best strategy to go when it comes to, I like to stay in at hotels?
Well, that also depends, because that's if you're loyal to a specific chain, then yeah, it might make sense to just get the card for that chain. People in this points and miles field like Hyatt because you can get really outsized redemptions, using points. And you can also either earn on the Hyatt card itself, or you can earn Chase points and they transfer to Hyatt. So it's very popular with points and miles people. But there's not as many Hyatts as there is Hilton or Marriott's per se. So, but if you stay with a specific chain, it could make sense because I know with Hilton, their points are worth a lot less than Chase or Amex points or whatever. But if you stay at Hilton's enough, you earn a lot of Hilton points by staying using their card, paying your stays with their cards. But if you're not loyal to any specific chain, then I would still stay with with the Chase or Amex or now the Venture X. That's a pretty good card because so that one. Let me get into this one real quick. You get so this one has a $395 annual fee. So for most people, it's probably like that's a lot, right? But you have $300 annual travel credit. So as long as you spend at least $300 in travel per year, then you get that back. But this travel has to be booked through their portal. But like I said, their portal is like an Expedia search engine where you can stay at any hotel. There'll be Hilton, Marriott, Hyatt. All that will be in there too. So it doesn't matter if you're not loyal to a specific chain, you can do something like that. And then now you're down to $95 for your annual fee because you got $300 back. And then every year they give you 10,000 miles, which transfers into $100 credit per year. So it really pays for itself as long as you use, $400 a year in travel booked through their portal. Then you're not really paying that annual fee. Gotcha.
And as we're continuing talking, there's so many more questions, right? But I want to be respectful of your time. But I have so many questions as far as like now, TSA, clear, all these things. But Also, just to kind of keep it short, what are some of your favorite strategies to get, upgraded? Like maybe whether you're staying at a hotel or, flights, is there any kind of strategies or any kind of scripts that you utilize to
No,
get?
I haven't. I mean, I know people use like templates, right, to email the hotel ahead of time to try to get upgraded and stuff. And I've never tried that. That hasn't. So I haven't had success with that. But something I did try, or that I did like, is if you don't travel enough to have what they call elite status with a hotel chain, there's each chain has a different program, that if you book through a travel agent, that you get all these benefits. So I tried this when I went to Vienna and again to Barcelona, with Hyatt. I didn't have status yet. I did end up getting it recently, but when I went back a few months ago, I didn't have the status, so I wouldn't get the free breakfast or any of that other stuff. But so I booked through a travel agent, and they call it Hyatt Privé, Prive, and the difference is, they have a standard rate. Say it's 220 euros. And then there's like a promotional rate for 200 euros. So 20 euro difference. But booking through a travel agent at the standard rate, you're getting the free breakfast. You're getting a potential upgrade. I mean, that's if it's available. You get like, I think in Vienna, I got like 60 euro credit. So you can just do that instead of trying to get status just to get status without staying, because, if you don't travel for work and you're not staying at hotels 30 to 60 nights a year, then you can just do that. If you're just doing 1 or 2 trips and want to get that elite status treatment, just book through a travel agent. So I booked it through this guy Spencer. He's on here on Instagram as Straight to the Points, so he can book any of those hotels. And Marriott, Hilton, they all have a program like that too, where you'll pretty much be treated to like if you had elite status, but you have to book through a travel agent that has that, affiliated with that program.
Gotcha. All righty. Yeah. Thank you for that. All right. Well, let's maybe wrap up. I'll have like maybe 2 more questions, and then if you have time, if you can want to do a Q&A, that's really up to you. But you kind of touched on, let's kind of summarize first, right? Mm-hmm. You mentioned, at least from what I'm hearing, is one, before you sign up with any credit card, right, work backwards, right? Identify what's your overall goal, right? Is it traveling? Is it hotels, right? And then kind of work backwards to identify which credit card, right? And obviously do your due diligence and your research, right? And then again, there's a lot of free resources online and a lot of Instagram channels like one like yourself, right? Like you mentioned, what else? You mentioned a lot of things here. Look up, things like Dr. Credit. There's all sorts of websites that kind of break it down for you, right? So I know there's, like I mentioned NerdWallet, but I think there's something similar that they ask you, like, what purposes are you trying to get? And then they kind of guide you, right? Just be careful with any websites that have any kind of referrals associated with it, because they might try to sway you a certain way. But and then obviously pay it off, right, on time, and keep the utilization under 30%, right?
Less if you could, under 10 if you could, but
under 10.
Over 30% is, I think, where it really starts affecting you more.
Okay. Yeah, and again, just be very disciplined about that, right? Automate. I love the concept of automation, and all that means is, hey, set up an auto payment and maybe set it to pay for full, right? And that's kind of my strategy for that. But anyways, so let's switch back a little bit to the personal finance side. So can you tell me a little bit, what's your money motto or your money mantra?
I don't know that I have one, but I guess it would just be balance, right? I mean, obviously, I have my 401k pay. I want him to pay me 401k, and you should invest and all that. But then, personally, I think there's a balance, and I wouldn't want to just throw all my money into retirement, and I die in a few years, and what did I do with that? So, I'm trying to do that not just with my money, but also with like enjoying my life. Which is why I don't want to wait till retire to travel the world, So if I can take, a week off or a long weekend and go somewhere, I'm doing it. Like I'm not waiting So with money, it's the same thing. Yeah, I have a 401k. I want to invest and save for retirement and all that, but I also want to enjoy my life. So it's a balance, and everybody's balance will be different.
Exactly. Yeah, but I like the point that, sometimes, especially our community, right? We work hard, especially our parents, right? So I'm really glad that you got to treat your parents, because that's what I'm trying to do with my parents, right? They work so hard
Mm-hmm.
to move us ahead, right? It's only fair for me to treat them to really nice, restaurants or traveling, right? So it's a good feeling when you can take care of your loved ones, right? And two, just a reminder that, traveling isn't just for really rich people, right? You could leverage it and really spend, like, the way I travel is typically I put a lot of emphasis on food, right? Not so much on my stay, so I try to stay at cheap places because I really don't care. But anyways,
Yeah.
just want to remind you, and then seeing faces like us, right? You're
Yeah.
traveling, you're going, 33 plus countries already. Anyone can do that, right? And it's just a matter of disciplining yourself as far as, planning out, and, don't get yourself in debt, because as once you get in debt and you try, this is also my personal rants, right? Really ask yourself, what do you truly value in life, right? Is it those experiences? Is it materialistic things? It's really up to you, right? But cut back on the things that don't bring you any value, right? And that way it's going to allow you to, go see the world, or, if you want to buy a really nice car, whatever it is, just ask yourself, what do you prioritize, right? Maybe cut back on all your streaming services, etc., right? So anyways, that's end of rant. Right? But anyways, all right, Miguel, where can we follow you, or, this is the time to promote yourself. What do you got for us?
No, I mean, mostly I spend most of my time on Instagram, so just Travel Sergeant there. I have YouTube, and I was trying to start like travel vlogs and stuff, but man, it's just so time consuming, the editing, it's so I do have a YouTube channel which I've been trying to upload. I have so much footage to edit and make new videos,
Yeah.
and I just like, man, it's just so time consuming. But it's also Travel Sergeant. I have a few videos on there. So I guess what I'd like to do with that is just do more of the travel vlog stuff and keep the, award flight points a mile stuff on Instagram, or I don't know. But yeah, mostly just Instagram is really what I use. I just started TikTok. And there I think it's travel.sergeant, Sergant. But I guess I'm trying to get more into that too. But, they say to focus most of your time on one platform, and this is where I'm at right now, mostly. So
Exactly. Yeah. So, it's Travel Sergeant. Yeah, I'll add those. And again, if you want to follow him right now, this is a good time to just click on his profile and follow him. And I love the work that you're doing on your stories. Is super informative. So I keep taking screenshots, right, or saving those posts. So this is very helpful. And yeah, again, thank you for joining us, and thank you for your time. I'll leave it up to you if you want to do a few minutes for Q&A. We can limit it to like 5 minutes. Otherwise, just
yeah, I
follow
mean,
his profile.
we could do that. I don't know if there'll be any
Okay.
questions.
All right. We'll limit it
I guess I
to.
can't see them, right? Because you started this live, so I'm
Oh
trying to
yeah,
find
I
the
can.
questions.
Yeah, I can see him. Yeah, exactly. So start asking questions. We'll limit it to 5 minutes for now. But yeah, man, I love what you're doing, man. Especially getting people like, Hispanic people, whatever, just minorities, seeing minorities go. That's
Yeah.
part of my whole concept of this channel, right? The whole abundancia mindset, because it's man, it's rough when you come from a very minority, not minority mindset, a very what am I trying to say? I'm losing words. When you come from much, right? It's hard to imagine, right? It's hard to imagine flying first class. It's hard to imagine traveling abroad, right? But anybody can do it, right? And
Yeah.
if you're that first person that's doing it, you're kind of setting precedent for your, little brothers, for your cousins, and anyone, right?
Yeah.
And all of a sudden now everybody's doing it, and it feels so nice, right? And
And,
even
and that's
Go.
oh, sorry. I'm saying, and that's why I want to share this, right? Because I don't know if you know, but actually my account was like a meme account. I used to make memes and post memes and stuff. And my travel stuff, I would just share on the stories, like, hey, just share personal stuff on the stories. But there's a lot of interest just with the travel stuff, like people saying, I get some messages that are, pretty, how do I say it? I don't know, they make me feel good,
Yeah.
And it's like people telling me, hey, like I've never left California. Like, thanks to you, I'm seeing what other places are like and
Oh,
stuff. And
that's amazing.
so then I wanted to also share how I can do it. People are like, well, what do you do? Like, maybe they think I have money or, I'm rich or something. I'm not, but there's ways to do it. There's, when you really want to do something, you'll find a way. And so I wanted to start sharing like how I'm able to do this, not just, I'm not trying to flex like, oh, look at me, like, look at me, but hey, I only paid $100,
Yeah.
And so,
You
because
could do
I did see some comments on one of these reels I put, it went pretty viral. I think it was like 1.7 million now. And so that, those bring out more, because there's more positive comments and all that, but those bring out the negative ones. And I think I saw one said like, why are you trying to flex or something? I'm like, man, if I was trying to flex, I wouldn't be telling you I paid $120 for it or whatever it is.
Just keep
So
you
I'm just,
guessing and thinking that
yeah,
you spend so much money on it. Yeah.
yeah. So I'm just trying to be transparent, like, hey, I travel a lot, but a lot of this is subsidized by points and miles, or I just find really good deals. So that's another thing I didn't bring up, but if you don't have to do this business class, first class travel stuff, you just want, cheap flights. What I'm subscribed to is Scott's Cheap Flights.
Mm-hmm.
And, that's great. They send me emails every day. You can set up alerts for whatever airports you're at. They send me emails every day of, whatever deals they find. And that's been great too.
There you go. So it's Scott's Cheap Flights there. I have some questions here. So for someone who doesn't have credit, or says not bad, just no credit history, is there a credit card that you would start off with?
Yeah, I mean, I would just go with a secured card, to start out. And I think actually Chase has one called Slate, and I think that's meant for someone with, not as much credit or not as good credit, and that's specially designed for, to help people build their credit. I think it's called Chase Slate.
Okay, Chase Slate. And one thing I just thought about, and I don't know if you leverage this, but do you ever utilize credit cards for other kinds of like, I guess, I know like you can act as insurance, right? So if I break my iPhone or electronic,
Oh yeah.
I could utilize that. Is there any kind of outside of flights or standard hotels, do you leverage them for anything else?
Yeah, so actually some cards have like travel protections, and the Chase Sapphire is one of them, the Amex is one of them. So what they do is if your flight is delayed or canceled, you can use your card to go get a hotel room if the airline didn't comp you, or to go eat, and they'll reimburse you for that. Or if your baggage was delayed, and there's terms, each card will be different. If your baggage is delayed either 6 hours or overnight or whatever it is with your card, then they'll reimburse you for that. So I haven't personally used it, even though I have been delayed, because they've always told me go through the airline first. So then if the airline doesn't compensate you, then we'll take care of you. So I did that once. My bag didn't make it onto the plane from Frankfurt coming back here. And I knew I could spend at least $100 a day. Yeah. So I was like, I'm gonna go buy some clothes. And so I bought, I don't know, like a little over $300 worth of clothes, and which I think I could have gotten a lot more, but I'm like, this, I'm good with this. And then I was going to submit my claim. I did all the paperwork online or whatever, submitted all the documents. They're like, oh, you need to go through the airline first. And the airline was Air Canada. So I sent them an email and told them my bag's delayed or whatever. And they're like, oh, yeah, we'll send you a check. So I was like, oh, so I didn't have to use that. But it is nice to know that, if they hadn't reimbursed me, the airline, that the Chase would have reimbursed me for that. But that's another thing we don't know, because that also happened with my in-laws. They went to go visit us in Germany, and their bag didn't make it. And the day they landed in Germany, we were flying out to Israel, so we couldn't wait for their bags. So I said, look, just let's go buy some clothes, and then then that was with Lufthansa, and so I submitted a claim with them, even though I didn't have insurance with a card, but just going through their customer relations department, sending them an email, and they reimbursed them. It was like over 300 euros as well. And then again, it happened. My aunt and my cousins came down from Seattle, and the bags they were here, but they couldn't open the cargo door, so they couldn't offload nobody could get their bags.
Wow.
And they were leaving to Mexico. And I told them, look, this is not guaranteed, but you might be able to get reimbursed, just go buy some clothes. I'm like, I would just keep it at like, I said, like maybe $200 per person or something. So they went and bought, close to $1,000, like 800 something, I think, worth of clothes and new shoes and stuff. And that was with Alaska Airlines. And I did the email for them, sent it out to customer relations or whatever. That one took a little longer. It took like 3 or 4 months, but they ended up reimbursing them as well. And that was without the credit card insurance or whatever. But yeah, there's a lot of stuff that we don't know. We don't take advantage of.
Exactly. So yeah, make sure dig a little deeper on your current credit card, and again, even for insurance, right? Card insurance, that also where I've leveraged that in the Netherlands as well. But yeah, just take advantage of this. I mean, it's there. Unfortunately, other people are going to pay for it, but I mean,
Yeah.
take advantage. All right, man. Well, hey, man. Again, thank you for joining us. If you want to follow, if you want to learn more about traveling, I want to call it travel hacks, right? Follow Miguel. He's at the Travel Sergeant, right? Again, you can click on his profile now and follow him. So, right? You can follow me at Bundasia Mindset. So I touch a lot on, getting out of debt, credit, investing, retirement. So I'm trying to cover everything for, that's relevant to you, right? And kind of making those concepts that are a little bit, seem challenging to make it a little more straightforward, because that's how they should be, right? We don't need to utilize big words. So anyways, yeah, thanks again, man. And I really
thanks for having me.
Especially in such a short notice, yeah.
Yeah, no problem. And if you ever have any questions, specific questions on any cards or award travel or just whatever it is, like just DM me. I answer pretty much everybody. Just the ones I sometimes don't answer or take longer are the really vague. Like I'm going to Italy in November. Any suggestions? Like for what? Like to get there, the hotels. I don't know. It's just too vague. But if you say, hey, I want to go this place, this month, this many people, I'll do the work for you, because I mean I do that all day anyway.
Yeah.
And or I have this many points. What and I want to go here. What's the best way? So yeah, just ask me.
Gotcha. No, yeah. Thank you, man. If you're ever in Houston, hit me up, man. We'll go and treat you some dinner or lunch. We got pretty good.
All right, sounds good.
All right, man. Take care. Have a good night. Thanks
You too.
again.
Thanks. See you.